Hello. From a powerful and destructive tornado in Kansas to amazingly rare footage of glaciers calving straight from Antarctica. Today you will see what happens when Mother Nature gets angry and shows off all her crushing power. Traveling in the mountains is generally leisure with unpredictable consequences. A group of tourists were on an excursion in the Tian Shan region, when suddenly one of them clearly heard the cracking of ice, and then this happened. The footage that he managed to capture turned out to be epic, but not only because of the angle. The avalanche was moving much faster than the guy thought, and very soon it caught up with him. Luckily, everyone remained safe, and the group was able to continue their journey, but already under a great impression of what happened. Here are the shots that you definitely won't see in the advertising brochures of Arai, Hawaii. During another volcanic eruption, one of its craters was destroyed, and all the lava that had accumulated there fell on a nearby village. The elements moved slowly, but due to the high temperature, they literally destroyed everything in their path, and lampposts lit up like matches. Although people managed to evacuate, some cars and houses were literally swallowed by boiling lava. It should have been an ordinary quiet day in a Swiss village, but some vagaries of nature simply cannot be foreseen. In a short time, huge streams of mud poured into the streets. And you might think that a landslide is not as dangerous as, for example, a hurricane, but just look how quickly the elements filled everything. She easily carried away cars, broke ceilings, and demolished buildings. Fortunately, they are empty, but residents were probably shocked when they looked at the CCTV footage. Severe lightning storms are one of the most obvious manifestations of nature's wrath. Not only can they terrify people, but they also make their lives very difficult. Laughter. University students saw with their own eyes how lightning struck a power line, causing an instant short circuit. Surely this not only shocked them, but also left them without electricity for some time. On ordinary days, you are unlikely to distinguish this volcano from any other, but it certainly has no equal. A couple of years ago, the eruption of Hunga Tonga in Polynesia triggered the largest atmospheric explosion. The consequences were impressive. Several nearby countries were hit by a tsunami, and the sound spread over 170 kilometers. NASA claims the eruption was more powerful than an atomic bomb. This video could be a scene from an apocalypse movie, but in fact this is what the sky looked like in Laguna, Brazil. Thick black clouds moved rapidly and threateningly descended on the city. It's hard to imagine what followed, but most likely it looked something like this. The workers were in the factory when they heard strange noises outside. Having opened the gate, they could not believe their eyes. A storm with heavy rain and wind reduced visibility to almost zero. And the guys were incredibly lucky that they caught this while in hiding. One of the unpleasant surprises during a storm is the appearance of a tornado, and although residents of the Canadian province of Alberta are accustomed to the vagaries of the weather, such a sight was amazing even for them. Just check out the scale. It feels like a huge black pillar is about to engulf the entire city. However, the most surprising thing is that the tornado only passed through fields and did not affect houses. I can imagine how happy the locals were about this. But in Kansas, the tornado was not so polite. The tornado ripped right through the small town. The wind speed reached 265 kilometers per hour, so the tornado easily demolished roofs and unreliable ceilings, and some houses were completely destroyed. And although eliminating the consequences will take years, the main thing is that the locals survived. Water has enormous power, but of course it is not only beneficial but also destructive. For example, it is capable of eroding the ground in seconds and causing the fall of a residential building right in front of an astonished crowd. But watching it erode the loose soil under a building is not as amazing as witnessing something similar. During Hurricane Fiona in Puerto Rico, massive amounts of rainfall caused flooding, and the storm instantly toppled a heavy metal structure. Everything happened so quickly that the workers didn't even have time to do anything. They could only watch in shock. The flow was so swift that in just a few seconds it tore out the bridge and carried it further downstream. It was as if the structure was made of lightweight plastic rather than metal. Hundreds of kilometers of open sea are one of the most terrible areas of the ocean, where sailors are left alone with the elements. We're talking about the Drake Passage. Takes 2 days to cross it, and in that time anything can happen. Most often, a strong wind arises here, which provokes a powerful storm with waves up to 15 meters high. For ship captains, sailing through this area is considered a challenge, and looking at this footage, it's easy to see why. And when the sky is overcast, everything looks even more eerie. Impressive, right? Another example of how unpredictable nature can be. China has been unlucky to face vagaries of weather. The harsh conditions included one day where the temperature difference across the country reached 90 degrees Celsius. In the coldest regions it dropped below 50 degrees, so precipitation instantly froze. The ice storm put people's lives on hold for several days. Roads and cars froze, almost everything was covered in ice. It's an amazing sight, but it's much more pleasant to watch it from the window of a warm apartment. Subtitles adjusted by Simon. But it can be worse when, due to low temperatures, entire buildings are covered with a crust of ice. To be continued. Residents of Canada observed a similar picture. With temperatures low and winds picking up, coastal residents had a hard time. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The waves became so large that they reached residential buildings. Due to the cold, the water instantly froze and covered the building with an icy shell, turning the city into a location from some kind of fairy tale. I'm sure at that moment people regretted buying a house on the shore of a reservoir. Wow! Wow! A volcanic eruption is an extremely impressive spectacle, as confirmed by the enthusiastic screams of this girl. True, it is better to observe it from as far away as possible, and that's why these guys managed to capture the eruption of the Santiaguita volcano in Guatemala, where almost immediately a column of ash rose in the sky more than 5,000 meters above sea level. And ash falling was recorded in all populated areas within a radius of 40 kilometers. Can you imagine this power? The luckiest guy in India is not a Slumdog Millionaire hero, but this guy. He miraculously managed to avoid a collision with one of the huge boulders and escape from the rockfall. Such events make you appreciate every second of life even more. Wise decision, buddy. This area is one of the most dangerous in India, as landslides and rockfalls occur most often here. They say this is due to the expansion of the city in large-scale construction projects. Blasting in the mountains later results in such large rocks coming down from the peaks. It's good that the operator's instinct kicked in and he escaped with a little fright. Viram, they told me that I didn't play. Welcome to Nepal, where an average of 1,000 natural disasters occur each year. Landslides are most common, especially during the monsoon season. However, seeing this with your own eyes is an unforgettable experience. Dynamic music, dynamic music. Therefore, one can understand their surprised exclamations. Builders and architects clearly underestimated the power of nature. It turned out that the wind can be so powerful. That is capable of tearing off the roof of a house in a matter of seconds, like a piece of paper. Can you imagine how fast the wind must reach to knock down a tree? On average, a wind gust of 90 kilometers per hour is enough to cause serious damage to buildings and bring trees to the ground. Even a strong root system cannot resist such force. This strong straight-line storm, accompanied by a fast-moving group of severe thunderstorms, has its own name, derecho. It was he who took several states of America by surprise. In some areas, the wind reached a speed of 110 kilometers per hour. Heavy rains and large hail began. It's easy to imagine what this combination of unpleasant weather conditions can do. The morning after derecho, some residents could hardly recognize their hometowns. Since our school days, we remember what earthquakes are and how they occur. But it's hard to believe that one shift of rocks on the borders of China and Kyrgyzstan could provoke more. 4,000 tremors and cause several strong earthquakes. Just imagine the horror these guys felt, being on the 24th floor of a shaky building. Due to the country's location, Japanese residents are accustomed to earthquakes and calmly respond to warnings of danger. Even so, many Japanese that day were probably shocked by the force of the shaking. Authorities immediately warned residents to stay away from coastal areas due to the risk of a tsunami. It is worth noting, however, the level of preparedness for natural disasters. With such strong shocks, the station was not damaged at all, and even the sign indicating the station remained intact. Subtitles made by Dima Torzak. It's very difficult to surprise people with hail. Each of us saw this phenomenon with our own eyes, but it's unlikely that everyone was able to see sediments of this size. Ice balls the size of tennis balls can easily break through windows and leave dents on cars. Hundreds of cars were damaged after heavy hail in Kansas and Missouri. The picture was simply monstrous. If you don't know that nature did this, you might think that the car survived the shooting. And even if this phenomenon came as a surprise to residents of the Central States of America, it is not difficult to imagine what a shock people experienced when they saw a similar picture in Mexico. Although things could have been even worse if they had such a weather bonus. San Sebastian is a fairly popular surfing spot in Spain. Waves occur here all year round and reach almost 5.5 meters in height. Except, of course, when there are tsunamis. Not a single surfer will dare to approach the water at this time for safety reasons. But tourists did not miss the chance to photograph the raging waters of the bay, at least from afar. However, in Italy, the elements also know how to show character, and footage from the village of Renaz proves this. Residents of another Italian city were a little less fortunate. The violence of nature took them by surprise. Many parked their cars right next to the shore, and did not expect such a coincidence. They could only sadly watch as water flooded their cars. When the wind rises in the desert, it instantly lifts a large amount of sand into the air. And depending on the wind power, the spectacle can take on very different scales. So in one of the southern regions of China, a whole sandstorm arose, which experts recognized as the strongest in the last couple of years. The wind carried sand at a speed of almost 15 meters per second, and the resulting wall of dust instantly filled the area and reduced visibility. The cameraman probably felt like the hero of some post-apocalyptic film at that moment. An avalanche in the mountains can hardly be called a surprise unless it blocks an entire highway. And this is far from an isolated case. At the same time, almost 50 sections of the road were blocked due to avalanches and landslides. Sometimes underground voids and floods work together to form sinkholes like this. I would advise these guys to get as far away from her as possible. It is unclear how quickly it will grow. These amazing images were captured by Christine Hannon, an amateur photographer and assistant expedition leader in Antarctica. In 2008 and 2009, the girls spent 3 months in the ice, controlling the Zodiac, an inflatable vessel used on polar expeditions. During this time, her camera captured stunningly beautiful, and sometimes even frightening shots, and her professional instincts helped her turn on the camera at the right moment every time. The authorities of one of the cities in the United Arab Emirates decided to relieve residents of the drought and brought rain clouds to the city. But things didn't go according to plan. It is not difficult to guess that the residents were not very grateful when they saw this. Close to PC.